Hello students from Math 1324. First of all, I want to apologize for uploading this video so late. I had issues. I was trying to figure out how to record on Blackboard, and I was able to learn how to record, but we couldn't find the video or how to upload it. So I'm going to try to do this. Hopefully I have no issues when I upload it. So what I'm going to do is record a video of 10 minutes. Then if I have more information to share with you, I will make another one of at most 10 minutes. So there might be one or two review videos, okay? Just keep that in mind. So I created the test. The test has 10 questions. And so for your exam one, remember we discussed that the sections that we're going to be in it were 2.1, 2.2, and then from 3.1 all the way to 3.5. Okay, so let's see, from 2.1 right here, we do have a graph, and there might be two graphs in it. And so based on that graph, I am asking you 4 questions. So you have to be able to identify what is the independent. For example, it could be day. It's not always X. And then the dependent could be something about, I don't know, the temperature, or it could be something like the price of something. So keep that in mind, and just make sure that you know what you're looking for. If I asked you something about a day, like what was the price on day 9, then look for that 9 over here and then try to match it to where it touches the graph. Now, I'm saying there are 2 graphs there, so you need to read the questions very carefully. There's no trick about that question. It's just very plain and simple. If I give you the price of something, and then I ask you what day was that price for whatever function, then remember you have to follow the line until follow the grid until you touch the graph, and then you match it with whatever day is there. For example, let's say this is a 6 and this is 100. So if I ask you for what day was the price at 100, then you will do that. You will match it. Now if I ask you what was the price of this function here in day 10, so then you will identify where the graph is touching, where day 10 will be meeting with the graph, and then you match it to whatever is the value here on the vertical axis. So that's one of the questions, very simple. No tricks for that one. Actually, there are 5 questions like that. Now, we do have another one that it will require you, and this is from section 2.2, it will require you to work with linear functions. And so for this one, I'm actually giving you a linear function, and let's say it's in standard form. Something like that. And then I ask you, I need you to find the x-intercepts and the y-intercept. Actually, this one will only have one of each because it's a line. So what you need to do to find the x-intercepts, you need to let y equal to 0 and then substitute into the original equation, which is this one here. You substitute the 0 there, and then you solve for x. So in this case, it will be 2x equals 10. So then x is equal to 10 divided by 2, which is 5. So then we know that the x-intercept will be at 5, 0. For the y-intercept, the default is you let x equal 0. So now we take the same equation, but now we're going to substitute the x with a 0. This equation right here. We put there a y, and then here we have 10. So this will turn into a 0. So we have 0 plus 4y equals 10. So then y is going to be equal to 10 divided by 4. Now we could leave it like that, or we could say they're both divisible by 2, so it will be 5 halves. So then the coordinates of your y-intercept are going to be 0, 5 halves. And so that's one of the things the question is asking for you to find the x and the y-intercept. So you know how to do it. It's also asking you to graph it. So if you do have 2 points, that's all you have to do. You have to plot them and you have to connect them with a line. Now, if I ask you what is the slope of the line, please do not just tell me 2 because that's the coefficient of x. What you need to do is first turn it into y equals mx plus b. So then we start with something in standard form that looks like this. So what we have to do is solve for y. We have to leave y by itself. So first, I'm going to take care of this positive 2x. I'm going to take it across the other side. It's going to be negative 2x plus 10. And then here, this is going to be negative 2x plus 10 divided by 4. Remember that 4 is dividing the negative 2, and it's also dividing the 10. So in this case, we're going to get negative 1/2 of x plus, and I'm just simplifying the fractions because those are divisible by 2, those two numbers, and so are these two. So this will be 5/2. So right there, to answer the question, what is the slope of the line? Well, the slope of the line is going to be this number, always the coefficient of the x. If it's positive, if it's negative, it doesn't matter. And keep in mind the horizontal lines have a slope of 0, while vertical lines have a slope that is undefined. So that's very important to remember as well. Okay, so something else that is on your test, please know the difference between, and I'm going to know who watched this video because it's going to be very obvious. A vertical line are the ones that say x equals to a number. And then we also have horizontal lines. And so horizontal lines are the ones that are given by the equation y equals to a number. So if I tell you, give me a vertical line that passes through this point, let's say 3, negative 7. So you know this is your x and this is your y coordinate. So if I ask you, give me a vertical line that passes through this particular point, all you have to say is x equals to this same number that you see here, 3. For the horizontal, if I ask you, find me a horizontal line that passes through this same point, then you will take the y value and use it for your equation. So it will be like that. But please know, what is the difference of vertical and horizontal? Because you might have a question like that on the test, and that's one of the easy ones, so you better get it right. Okay, next question. Please remember what a piecewise function is. You might want to review that on your homework. I'm not sure if it's section 2.2, I believe. So you need to review that, and those are the functions that are divided into pieces. So let's say that this could be linear. You could also have a constant function there, or you could have like a quadratic. So for example, is this if x is less than, let's say, negative 2, and then it will be 5 if x is actually, we'll use negative 2 here. So x is between negative 2 greater than negative 2. Equal to negative 2 will be this category, the first one. The next one will be between negative 2 and, let's say, less than or equal to 5. And then for the third category or piece of my piecewise, I'm going to choose, I have to have 5 here, greater than 5, but less or equal to 10. So I'm going to ask you 3 questions, and please keep this in mind. If you do this 3 times for each question, you're wrong. So if I ask you what is the function value at negative 2, you have to use this definition of the function because negative 2 is in this category, equal to negative 2. So it will be with this function, we're going to substitute negative 2 plus 1 in place of the x, and that will give me negative 1. Now let's say if I ask you a number that is in between here, so let's say 4. Find f of 4. So you know 4 is greater than negative 2 and it's less than 5. So you look at here and there's nothing to substitute your number with. Well, that's because that's a horizontal line, a constant function. So all you have to do is just transfer the number that is here because there's no x to substitute it with. So it's like an easy but a little tricky. Now let's say that I ask you, find me f of 9. So we know 9 is between here because it's less than 10. So then we will use this rule of the function. So 9 squared, 81. So you should only have one answer for every x value because this is a function, and remember, you can only have one y value related to it. If you have more than one, it's wrong, and if you do not give me only one answer, I will not give you any points for it. So next question, vertical line test. Make sure you know how to do that. Those are very simple, but just like I mentioned in class, if I give you a function and you do not trace that vertical line, then I will not give you credit. So you must draw a vertical line, and for example, and then you will write function or not a function, but the line must be traced. I'm also asking about interpreting a cost function. So, and this is like the linear one. So this is probably section 3.1. And so let's say that you have a function that, let's say 25x plus 65,000. So let's say that represents the cost of making a textbook. So then if I ask you, what is the fixed cost? So the fixed cost is like if we were talking about the y equals mx plus b, if we talk about it in those terms, the fixed cost is going to be the constant term, which is the cost for just making 0 items, 0, 100, 1,000, it doesn't matter. That includes the rent of the local, perhaps the utilities. I don't know, I can't really think of any more stuff right now because it's 6:18. So then that would be the fixed cost, the y-intercept. Now, what is the marginal cost? And so the marginal cost is the cost per item, and that comes from here, the slope, and that would be 25. Now, let's say if I ask you, find the cost of making 5 textbooks, well, then you will have to substitute 5 in place of the x. And so this will be 125 plus the 65,000. And so that will give me 65,125. That's what it will cost to make that. Now let's say that the question is, and you might have forgotten about this one, the average cost. And so for the average cost, we use this symbol to denote it with a little line on top, kind of like the mean average. And so here what you do is you find the function value and then you divide it by the number of items. So if I ask you what is the average cost of 5 textbooks, well, we already have this part right now, C of 5, we did it here. And then we divide it by 5 because those were the 5 textbooks. So this will be something like 65,125 divided by 5. And then from there we will get the cost. So remember, you can use a calculator for this exam, but this needs to be a calculator without internet capabilities. So therefore your cell phone is out. So it's 13,000 in that, because they only made 5, right? And the initial cost, not the initial, but what do we call it? The fixed cost was pretty high. So if we were to make 100 textbooks, if I ask you find the cost of 100, then you will have to find the function value for 100 textbooks, meaning that you will substitute the x with 100, and then you divide by the number of textbooks, which is 100. So make sure you look at the question. And we're almost done with this review. However, I'm going to stop this video right now because I don't want to lose it and then having to edit it and lose the sound or something like that. So this is the end of review video 1.